So they gathered for one more time. For some, it will be the last time on the beaches of Normandy. They were, of course, commemorating the courage of those who had helped bring about the end of war in Europe 70 years ago. But this time there was another purpose to the gathering of world leaders, to try and end a conflict on the other side of the continent. And there is perhaps some cause for optimism tonight, after the leaders of Russia and Ukraine shook hands and spoke of peace. In a moment, we'll be hearing from our foreign affairs correspondent Jonathan Rugman at the D-Day commemorations in Ouistreham. But first to our Europe editor Matt Fry, who's in the eastern Ukraine city of Donetsk tonight. Matt.
Well, Kathy, it is both poignant and very timely indeed that we are here in eastern Ukraine. Because my experience in this conflict is that once the dogs of war have been let off the leash, it is extremely difficult to put them back on again. Why? Because both sides in this conflict feel that they have a just and historic cause. The Ukrainian side are fighting for what they see rightly as the sovereignty and the independence of their nation. The Russian side is fighting for what they see rightly as their cultural identity in this nation or indeed another nation. And so far there are no signs with the momentum of fighting that will abate in any way. So let's wait and see if these words actually make a difference. Now, how bitterly ironic is it that on the day that Europe and the world commemorates the end of the last great war on European soil, they have been unable so far to stop another one from breaking out right here. So I ask you this question: what is the value of one moment of diplomacy? This is a place where the past inflames the present. The poppy fields of eastern Ukraine and their generous horizons were made for battle. The mural on the road to the Russian border looks much fresher than the great victory against fascism 70 years ago. Made for battle, then and now. The uniforms look vintage, but this is not a Second World War reenactment. This is the funeral of a pro-Russian fighter killed by Ukrainian troops earlier this week. Once again, the local soil is irrigated with blood and tears. There are casualties virtually every day now in this low-level but very contemporary European war. And every day brings new and mostly unpleasant surprises. This was a Ukrainian surveillance plane shot out of the sky today at high altitude by pro-Russian forces. Sophisticated weapons at work. A more pleasant surprise about 2,000 miles from here, near the beaches of Normandy, where world leaders had come to commemorate the D-Day landings that led to the end of the last great war on European soil. Between group photo and lunch, Vladimir Putin met Ukraine's new president Petro Poroshenko, a 15-minute encounter, match made by Angela Merkel. One assumes they were all speaking Russian. The Ukrainian leader looks distinctly unhappy, but at least they agreed to talk ceasefire. Whether it's a first step towards peace depends on them. In Donetsk, the pro-Russian troops are digging in for the long haul. The gates to the city are now heavily armed checkpoints. This one even flew the Russian flag. Between men with guns and politicians with power are ordinary people with neither. On a dusty road in no man's land, we met a Ukrainian family trying to preserve a shred of normality on a Friday afternoon for the sake of their 6-year-old daughter, Ulyana. Artem in white is a miner. Valentin runs a small transport business. This has always been their home, but now they suddenly have to choose which country they belong to. Valentin says he wants to carry on living in Ukraine. Tatiana chimes in. Why does Russia even need us? We're just ordinary, simple people. Marina adds, all we want is peace and stability, just to get on with our lives. Everyone is nervous here. They fear that history could make a comeback. They actually wanted to. But the question is whether the politicians can stop something that they started.